Alright, what's going on guys? Using Actions here, and today I'm going to be explaining a game a lot of people were confused about, and including myself when the end credits rolled. If you can't tell by now, it's Outlast 2, obviously, from the title and what you're seeing now. This video is going to be about the main storyline, and I will most likely do more videos about different parts of the game that people and I didn't understand after I played them, or while I was playing them, that is. So to start off, our protagonist's name is Blake Langermann, and you are the husband of Lynn Langermann, her assistant and cameraman. Lynn Langermann is an investigative journalist seeking the answers behind a pregnant woman murdered under impossible circumstances in Arizona. You can find out this information I'm telling you from about the first 30 seconds of the game, so we're going to move into some deeper stuff. But this beginning stuff does have quite a bit of importance, as you will see here in a couple seconds.
You were calling out some other woman's name.
What?
In your sleep. Jessica, I think. You know a Jessica?
No. I mean, I was dreaming about Jessica Gray from when we were kids.
Oh, yeah. I haven't thought about her in ages.
Hey, we're crossing into reservation land now. You said I'm looking for some sort of factory?
Yeah,
We can look, but there's nothing out here.
it does look pretty empty.
All the mercury in that woman's blood, she had to have spent at least a decade downstream from some pretty heavy industry.
Now that scene you just saw is actually very important, but we're going to get back into that in a lot more detail pretty soon. But before this whole helicopter segment even starts, Blake is having a dream about an old school classmate from the 4th grade actually, named Jessica Gray. Now Jessica Gray was a friend of Blake and Lynn's in school, and she actually ended up committing suicide by hanging herself. Now this dream that Blake is having is actually a recurring thing throughout the game, but it's like every time he closes his eyes, basically he's having like the same dream of her like screaming and yelling for his help. So it's some pretty messed up shit. Now after you and your wife talking about what's going on and a couple of recordings to get some beginning footage for their documentary or whatever the hell they're making, a bright light flashes with a very loud sound coming after it, and it causes the helicopter to actually crash. Now this is where our story begins, technically when you have your first flashback from when you were back in the 4th grade and seeing Father Loudermilch. That is his name, by the way. If you didn't know, I'll touch on him possibly in this video or in some other video. But it's like your first flashback, then you wake up and you see the crashed helicopter, Lynn is gone, and then mainly for the rest of the game it is your goal to find her and get her back. Now in that clip I showed you, they mentioned a factory, as that would be the only reason there was so much mercury left in the dead pregnant woman's body. We actually get to see the factory later on, sadly from a distance, but the factory is actually owned by the Murkoff Corporation. Now if you didn't know, the Murkoff Corporation is actually the same people from the first game that reopened Mount Massive Asylum and were conducting all the crazy experiments there. But like I said earlier, you get to see the factory from a distance at the lake, but you also can find a document at the lake, and I should mention it is probably the hardest one to find in the game. Now this letter or document is called Old Traveler, and what this letter does is actually link Murkoff from the first game to the second through one character. This character's name is Ginny, or Jennifer Rowland. She was one of the scientists from the asylum with Murkoff in the events of the first game. Now in this letter she's being written about by a scientist in Arizona working on the relays. Now the people in the town are referred to as subjects. As you can see in the letter, the longer or closer you get to the relay or the bright flashes, the more insane you become. And in a dream state, or what happened to Blake right after the helicopter crash and multiple times throughout the game, the further away you end up moving from the relays. I believe this is basically to protect the people working in the factory and not letting any of the experiments or people to come into contact with the factory or towers or the scientists working there. This could be something completely else, but again, this is mainly just my opinion. So all the people in this area, Blake, the Christians, the heretics, and the Scald, are all stuck in this area, not able to leave even if they wanted to.
Tower. A radio tower or microwave relay. Civilization, maybe. For a second I was dumb enough to think I might not die.
And notice throughout the game, Blake's dreams start to become more real. While he is not in the dream state, he hears Jessica or sees her, and the same with Father Loudermilk. At the end of the game, I believe that Blake has lost all sanity when you see that final ray of just whiteness go up and fill your screen. I believe he just lost all sanity there. So leading up to the end, such as the blood rain, the red moon, the apocalypse, it was all not real. It was all in his head, but it was also in the people's heads around him. This would also explain why, while he's in the dream state, his dreams keep getting worse corpse at the school and not just in the real world. So the closer he gets to the factory or towers, the further he keeps losing his sanity. The dreams become almost completely real to him. And you notice this mostly after you get out of the mines. He starts talking about some of the most randomest crap, and it all relates to his dreams in the real world, basically. And since you can die in the dream state or dreams, he can practically die in his own mind and become nothing more than a walking corpse. So let's recap. Everything in this area of Arizona is being controlled by that relay tower or the microwave intermissions coming off of it, and making the locals, Blake and even Lynn, go insane and lose their minds the longer they spend in this location without any way of leaving. The towers or relays also mess with technology. We know this because the first time you see it happen, you lose the engine in the helicopter, which causes the crash, and while you're in your dreams at the school, this would explain why when you record events there is no picture, just static, and the voices or gibberish you hear in the static of the school recordings is actually Father Loudermilch saying things to you, kind of relating to the event you recorded. You can't make out what he's saying though until you play his voice backwards. Something also to notice is when you are in the dreams and you come back to the real world, Blake is always in a different location. So this kind of proves that your body is still moving, but your mind is somewhere else completely. And now we get to one of the biggest controversial arguments in the whole game. The baby. Is the baby real or not? And I'm going to give you the correct answer, and no, it isn't real. And the biggest reason that I believe this is right before Len dies, you look straight at your arms where you see the baby and are holding it and says there's nothing there. Later after that, you wake up and Noth is sitting next to you. He sees the baby and you see the baby. Where have both of you been the whole game? Above ground, suffering the torment of the relays. However, Lynn was in the mines and only got hit with 1 or 2 flashes. That's why she sees the storm or apocalypse happening, but isn't far enough gone to see the baby. And a couple facts with the baby: there's no umbilical cord when Lynn gives birth, and if you look at the ground and walls with the shadows, you will not see a baby in your arms, or the shadow of the baby. And now to completely wrap this video up, we're going to be talking about the very ending, and you already know what I think about the very ending. I told you about that earlier in the video, but we're going to talk about the part that I think confused the most people and confused me the most as well, and that is the very, very ending of the game, where you find Jessica. It takes you, the flash takes you back to the school. You find Jessica hiding in the kitchen, cafeteria kitchen or whatever, and then you guys sit down and you say a little prayer. It's all nice and cute, and then the game ends. Now my reaction was a very loud what? I think that was, of course, most people's reaction. I talk about a lot of people in this video, no one specifically, but you guys know what I mean. But why I think this was the ending is, you got to think, who has Blake had these nightmares, these dreams of, and who has he wanted to save and help? I'm guessing probably his entire life. He regrets everything, wants to go back to the 4th grade and help and save Jessica. And even though he did marry Lynn, I honestly think he may have liked Jessica a little more than Lynn. And when Loudermilch killed and hung up Jessica, that is one of Blake's worst nightmares, and he wishes he could take it all back and redo it all over to try and save her. But in the end, when that last flash happens, we're going back earlier in the video where I said basically you become just a walking corpse and your mind is completely somewhere else, and I believe that's what happened to Blake with that last array that went up. In the end, he is with who he wants to be with, which is Jessica, in this dream state, and I'm not totally sure what's going to happen after this. Like I said, we are still waiting for a DLC or even a DLC announcement. I can't wait for the DLC. But yeah, that's basically about it. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you leave a comment. I will get back to you as soon as possible. I hope this helped a lot of you guys. If it did, make sure to like button. You guys are new to my channel, subscribe, and I will see you guys in some of the other videos or in the next video or whatever the hell. Make sure you stay tuned with these videos. I'll be covering all of Outlast, every bit of it. So, peace.
I'll never let you go. You never let me go. Now the light has gone away. Savior, listen while I pray, begging thee to watch and keep, and send me quietly to sleep. Watchful Savior, wash away all I've been wrong today. Help me every day to be gentle, gentle, more like thee.
What?